Hello viewers, so this video is solely on how you can make or stitch such beautiful outfits. As you can see, this is called a monogram pocket design. This is done with a monogram machine. I have made previous videos showing you guys monogram machines, so I'm just trying to show you in this video how you can make and stitch lovely outfits like this. So detailed. You can see the neckline, the piping, everything is smoothly done. I've not really ironed, but look at the finishing we are having, right? So this is just what I'm trying to explain, or I'll try to explain in this tutorial. So if you love what you're seeing, and if this sounds like what you wish to learn, don't forget to like, share, comment, and watch till the very end. So this is a lovely finishing I got right here. So let's go down to the main stitching video proper. I will drop the link on the curtain of this video somewhere around the screen, so do well to watch the drafting as well, so that you also follow from the beginning to the very end. See you on the next one. Right, so in this tutorial I want to show you how to stitch a couple basic outfits that has inner facing at the back, and then flap embroidered pockets with monogram and breast pocket embroidering as well. So if this sounds like what you want to learn, kindly stick around and watch to the very end. So right here, I am stitching the inner vintage fabric. Now, most of you must have been seeing this vintage at the inner neck of your outfit. So this is best fixed before you start doing your regular sewing. So you just cut a vintage. The measurements vary, but the least you can do is 6 inches deep from the neck depth, and then 3 inches width from the neck edge. Then fold or weave. Then you can fold square or fold in a curvy form. Then bring it at the back inner facing of the back panel, and then stitch it all down. So once you have sewn this to this very point, now the next you will do now is to bring your front panel. Here, this is the front panel. I use hairstay to gum it, as you can see. Now this hairstay is very important and very essential that you must gum with hairstay. The essence of the hairstay is to make it to be firm, and then you stitch the inner flap at the right panel. Fix it all through that way. Now this stitching you're sewing here now is to seal the slit opening you created at the center panel. So this, you can see the shape of the placket I am using. So you can still, follow the processes I'm showing you. So now once you have sewn it that way, you now fling it backwards this way, making sure that everything is properly arranged. Then top stitch all along that line. Top stitch all along that line. Top stitch all along that line to the very end of the little placket. The opening we have there is 6 inches, right? So top stitch all through that way, and make sure as well you're using a corresponding stitch, a corresponding thread to make it fine. Cut off the excesses. So now you bring the bigger flap. Now this is how the flap is being prepared. So place it in this form. So this is just a simple approach which you can use in stitching your senator flap, right? So make sure you follow the processes you are seeing in this video. So this was a monogram flap, so you stitch all through in this form. Now the slit opening, like I said, is 6 inches, right? 6 inches thereabout. So you stitch to that very point, and then you cut off your threads as shown, and then you turn it over the other way around. It comes out in front, so this way. So before you sew it in front, we are having a white embroidering design, so it's advisable that you will use white thread to sew the flap. The white thread is only for the front, the up region, while the under will remain blue, so that the thread will not alter the embroidering design we have already made. So this is called a monogram flap design. So my thread is being changed to white, right? So these are the details that you should bear in mind when making your own as well. Here you stitch down all through when you must have changed the flap, right? So stitch down all through. As you can see, the thread is no longer showing because we are sewing on the embroidered part of the outfit. So you stitch down all through this way. So sew it down all through that way. As you are stitching, you also make sure that you are arranging the clothes as I am doing here. So sew it down all through. Then when you get to this point, you go all over this way again. You go over this way again. Then you drag the neck region to be equal before you sew it down. That's very, very essential and very important. So sew down all through this way. Then stitch from here as well. Hold the flap just the way I'm holding mine. Make sure it's lapped and perfect, just like this. And then you sew all through here. So the essence of the thread I've changed is the white, so that you can see that the white is not showing on the embroidering. But if you have used blue, it will have spoiled the finishing or the joy. Then stop stitching here at 6 inches. So that point is the point where you stop your sewing to enable you to have an opening that will be able to accommodate the neckline whenever the customer wants to wear the outfit. So you just decide to end it with any thread design you want to have. So this is how it is. So let's use the pocket. So now the next we are going to do here is the pocket fixing. So for the pocket fixing, you will make sure you measure a perfect point where the pocket will fall on. So you measure from here 7 inches from the neck edge to make sure it enters properly, and then measure away 1 inch off from the flap edge. That is the point where, or 1.1 and how you want to do it depends on the chest size of your customer as well. If you have a bigger chest size, you can go ahead and do it 1.5, but we have a regular chest size, so we are going to now place our pockets in this form, and then make sure as well we retain the same white threading we have already used to stitch the flap. So the detail of picking a matching color cannot be overemphasized. So you make sure you pick a color of thread that does not, alter the neatness of your outfit. And once the pocket is being held evenly this way, then the next you do is to stitch all through this way as shown. Then you also go all over the other way around, and then stitch from here as well. Stitch from here as well to this very point. So this is how it's being done. So you have to do it gently. No, don't be in a haste, please. Don't be in a haste. Don't be in a haste. So stitch properly, and then once you are done with this, then let's now move ahead to the next stage of the sewing. Here now we want to start fixing or stitching the both shoulders together. So you place the outfit in this form, then bring the back facing rather, then place it at the front panel just this way. And once you hold the 3 pieces together, so you're going to now stitch it down this way, and then fling the facing to go behind. So that is one of the tricks or one of the methods you can use to fix your facing as well. So this is how I do mine. There are other ways as well you can do yours, but this method I'm using is very, very efficient and very easy as well to me though. But if you have a better way of doing yours, you can go ahead and do yours. There's still no problem. So you stitch all through this way and do the same thing on the other shoulder as well. So I will do that and then show you the next thing I'm going to do. I have finished stitching the back facing. So we are going to stitch it down to the back panel. So it was flinged to the right side, that's to the back panel. Then stitch it all through this way. So when you're sewing it as well, you also make sure that the shoulder region here is evenly held just this way. Don't allow any rumple or whatsoever at the shoulder region. Then stitch from here to the end. You can decide to stitch at the tip or can decide to stitch 1 inch away. Depends on your choice, or 1/2 inch as well. So all of these things depends on your choice and how you want to do it. So you stitch all through to the very end. So after this stitching now, the next thing we do now is to trim the neckline and the shoulder before you fix your sleeve, and of course do your piping. So I'll also take you through the processes on how to trim and the areas you need to iron before you go to the neck piping and armhole and sleeve fixing. Before you join the sleeve, you need to thread it. Even though you have hemming on, you still need to thread all through this way. Thread it all through this way. threading must be very, very neat, and your hands must be straight. You can decide to thread it once, twice, three, anyhow you want to do it, but I prefer threading once in such fabrics like this. So you thread the second one as well, then I'll show you the next thing to do as well. So after you have done the ironing, after you have joined, you come to iron the shoulder region. Iron it very well and make sure that you are having a relaxed outfit just like this before you proceed with the shoulder trimming and neck trimming. You now do your shoulder trimming. You now apply your shoulder. So shoulder measurement we have is a shoulder of 19 shoulder. So you add half an inch to that, divided by 2. That's 10. You mark at 10 inches. So this 10 inches is going to help you to join the sleeve as well. Then you start from this one, the front panel armhole, then trim from that point. So make sure you don't go too deep. So the trimming might be 1 inch at the armhole depth and then half an inch at the shoulder region. So trim all through to this very point. So you trim it out and then you notch the shoulder point. That notching will help you to know where to fix your sleeve. And after this now, you now start to trim your neck. So the neck trimming comes mostly from the back panel. Then you fold the outfit in this form and then you trim half an inch down from the back panel. Make sure the trimming is done properly and make sure that the back neckline is even when you are placing it. After which you now trim this way. So do the trimming mostly from the back panel, half inch down or 3/4 inch down. You trim all through this way. Make sure you flush it back to the neck edge. Don't create a new width. Just that way, carefully arrange all through. Do a little trimming all through from that point. So remember the cutting processes we made. So this is how it's going to be done. And then you now check what you have trimmed. Then you can measure and see what you have trimmed. So if there's any area that is not properly trimmed, you can now fine tune it. Just like here, you fine tune these points. And then once you measure and confirm your neck measurement, you go ahead and pipe. And for piping, so you fold the piping in this form, put it up in the first fold, and then before you make the second fold downwards this way. So this helps you to achieve a neat finishing. Then make sure the underneath is properly arranged and then you start piping from here. So you make sure your threading must be at the tip of the piping. So as you're piping this, you're also arranging the neckline, making sure that the neckline is properly tucked in. So the neckline must reach at the edge of the piping, just like this. Then you fold the bias downwards and then you thread. So this is how you do your piping, right? This is how you do your piping. You thread, carefully thread, stitch all along that line, stitch all through this way. So this is how you do it. So stitch all along that line. The first stitching you're doing must be at the tip of the pipe. Please, very important. The first stitching must be at the tip of the bias. Stitch all along this line and make sure it's properly tucked in. So once you have gotten to this stage, the next thing you will do is to double thread. Like after you have sewn or stitched the first one, you now start double threading. So tuck it in just like this and then stitch all through to the very end. Stitch all through the very end. And then at the end of the piping, you cut it out just like this. And then you decide on the width extent of the folding. So you fold properly as well. And then end it perfectly just like that. Thread the second one. Double thread the second one. Double thread the second one. Double thread the second one. You must double thread all through. So this second one must come first at the tip. So you can decide to make it only 2 or 3 or 4 depending. So I usually do mine 2. After the second one now, I will stitch at the midpoint. You know, it also helps to relax the piping as well. So that's for that. That's your sleeve fixing from the notch point. Remember the notching we did. So the sleeve as well should also start from that same notch point. Then you notch it all through, you stitch it all through from that center notch, then drag the sleeve to meet the very end of the bodice of the outfit. Then make sure you straighten the sleeve armhole region so it goes all through that way. It goes all through that way. So once you get to this sleeve region, and then after the sleeve fixing, you do the sleeve armhole weaving, and then you now apply the measurement of your customer, lock, and then you now do your hemming. So I don't think this video will be able to show you all those parts, so you can actually do this on your own so that the video will not be too boring or too long. So thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Bye bye for now.